From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon of Afternoons LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus update of 2021. With a deal done with the House members, and that means we're heading to a vote, folks. Nancy Pelosi confirms it overnight. The vote will be happening next week, and this is even if the Congressional Budget Office report is not done, and the programs will pay you about $15,000. It's huge. It's breaking. It's right now on Afternoons LA. We're going to the finish line on the House. Finally, Nancy Pelosi confirms that the recon will go to a vote next week, even if that Congressional Budget Office report is not done. This is as 3 classes of checks that got added this last week, and more could be added on the Senate side after that, currently paying you about $15,000 across all these incredible clusters of checks, but wait till we get to the Senate, because then we have the subcommittees and we have the vote-a-rama, student loan debt forgiveness, more debt could be forgiven across the board, and then the big money of COLA raise with fifth stimulus right behind that. I have my commentary about what happened with that consumer price index report released yesterday, with inflation at its highest rate in nearly 30 years, and what that means for your recon, what it means for this country. I got all those details and more. It's a big, bold afternoon's broadcast with exciting, great news. As Nancy Pelosi confirms my reporting, the voting will be happening next week with or without the Congressional Budget Office report, and the recon will be passed in the House, and away we go off to the Senate. It is the huge, great, wonderful news you wanted to hear, and away we go into a breaking news report on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a beautiful day, and hope the weather is good where you are. It is blistering hot here in Southern California. The heat is back, but the heat will be back next week, as the House vote will solidify and finish the recon. It'll be done on the House. The breaking news you're going to hear in this recording today. The vote is now set for next week, potentially on next Thursday, and this comes from Nancy Pelosi's own mouth, and this is after word about the Congressional Budget report not being potentially done by the end of next week are the latest details. But the huge news is that these programs so far pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible clusters of checks. I'll show you how to get this money, because if you're a Purple Hawk, if you're a viewer of this channel, you have already gotten $45,000 of the third stimulus. When we cut to fourth stimulus, you're going to potentially get that at least. But for now, we're looking at about $15,000 to start. Student loan debt forgiveness, more debt could be forgiven. And then the big money for fifth stimulus coming right behind the border, because guess what? You need it. You need it, especially in lieu of that congressional budget, that CPI report yesterday, showing inflation at its highest level in nearly 30 years. I have all the details of that in my analysis and commentary and more, and it's coming up in this supersized broadcast. And this is LALATE, America's most talked about financial news channel in America. Live in the morning, taped in the afternoon. No one covers the scope of this reporting anywhere in America today. You may tune into one financial channel and hear stocks, and another financial channel hear the economy, but no one hears political and economic analysis of these packages like here on a channel that has no less than 16 shows per day in a 24-hour window. So subscribe. I'm excited you found this channel. Like this video and consider becoming a member to the best community there is of the Purple Hawks. Let's go right into this incredible program, and let's start with what's going to go on. We're first going to go over the recon in generality. We're going to go over the clusters, 3 of them, the checks, all those. And then we're going to go over the 3 add-ons, 3 of them. And then after the commercial break, I'll come back with the breaking news about the vote happening next week, as early as Monday, but as late as potentially Thursday. The Congressional Budget Office report, clarification about that. The programs that'll pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible clusters. And then my analysis of the new inflationary numbers. And of course, we'll go over student loan debt and also the big money for fist stimulus. Here we go. It was 3 weeks ago that a subcommittee of the House passed a behemoth of a reconciliation budget bill, also called the Social Spending Plan, also called the Recon. It was tailored down now to about $2 trillion, but across all this incredible recon are three classes of checks. Those three classes of checks with those add-ons so far pay you on average about $15,000 across all these incredible classes of checks, and this is huge news. For the viewers of this channel who got $45,000 on average from third stimulus, under fourth stimulus you're going to get this at least just to start. Let's go over each of the classes of checks. Let's see the status of them, how much they are. Did they grow? And we're going to start with the first one. With understand if I say hard, cold, or front end, it means it's a check right in your hand. Back end means it's a check after you do something. Here we go. First cluster, hazard pay, got in there. Back end check, $4,000 of elder care, got it in there. Front end check, $4,000 to care for young children, got it in there. Front end check. Pell's grant, $550 front end checks to my college students. Then the CTC, the child tax credit, one more year. Front end checks, $3,600 or $3,000 based upon the age of the child. Then back end checks, $12,500 for the purchase price of a new electric vehicle, U.S. auto manufactured. And then 15% for the purchase of a new electric bike. And finally, front end checks for repair of that home in a low income community. There you go. All the clusters, all the checks in the first cluster survived, and some of them got even bigger. If you want to know how to get those, stay with me. I'm going to cover the details of those checks later in this video. Let's go to the first of three add-ons, and that is the incredible Maxine Waters provision for first-time home buyers. She got it in there. She wanted $25,000. She did not get the price point of $25,000, but she got something really quite close and great. This is front-end checks for the purchase price of your first home. Wow, this is a game changer, and you need it. We're going to be talking about first-time home purchases later in this video because of the Consumer Price Index inflationary report released yesterday. Here we go. Cluster number 2. Let's go over the status of these checks in the second cluster. Family leave and paid leave, they got in there. Front end checks, that's thousands of dollars. Stay with me later in this video, I'll calculate it for you. Pre-kindergarten, front end checks, big ones. Back community college out. Then the household tax credit, back end checks, and then the money to weatherize your home. Weatherizing your home, definitely front end, especially if Chris and Sanima comes knocking at the door and say, is Joe Manchin here? And you say, oh, I weatherized the home. That's why you don't see his Maserati in the driveway. Yeah, I don't. Where is he? Sorry. Maybe he's in West Virginia. Then we go to the second add-on of checks. Those are incredible. These are checks in your hand. They're covered benefits. 250 billion of them. A little bit less. This came from Bob Casey, the senator from Pennsylvania. He wanted this big money for free home health care for seniors on Medicare and people on disabilities. Got it in there. Wow. Let's go to the third add-on of checks, and we are just rocking and rolling. You feel them? Do you feel the excitement? I do. Here we go. Free school meals for all checks. That's front end, $65. Cheaper prescription medication, a benefit. Immigration reform, a benefit. Farmers don't know. Free internet, don't know. Clean energy out. Independent contractors don't know, and the Medicare expansion. I got those details for you right now. House versus Senate, Senate versus House. Well, Medicare expansion, Senate. Dental and vision, Senate. Hearing so far taken care of on the House side, and the expansion to those Medicaid gap states. I explain that all later in this video. Stay with me. We got a lot coming up. I'm excited for you in this recording, which brings us to the third add-on, MSC, monthly or multiple IRS stimulus checks. Here we go. Always going to be a Senate play more than a House play. Senate play is because we have the 6 senators who have represented thousands of viewers over the last few weeks. They're adding it in there. They add it in there when it lands in the Senate. And we're not in the Senate yet, but we could be as early as the end of next week. Those 6 senators are Casey Coons, Warren Wyden, Sanders Schumer. I say call 2 per day. Call the W's on Monday, the C's on Tuesday, and the S's on Wednesdays, and then repeat. Advocate, because it's important to understand that the recon is far from over. The senators represented a series of comments last week, and the comments are no different this week, that they have a lot of work to add in there. 2 opportunities, Votorama and also Senate subcommittee to add legislation across the board. When the legislation comes out of the House and lands the Senate, you do not want a one-day vote. You want it to be modified. Votorama, a two-day event in which senators introduce changes to whatever House bill has. And boy, it's been a significant game changer historically. I've been detailing all this week about how the Votorama under third stimulus made student loan debt forgiveness a tax-free event. Otherwise, you would have been paying $10,000 out of your pocket. That's the benefit of a Votorama. It's 48 hours of voting at the very end of the whole process in which the senators absolutely present big items that were never mentioned by those House members. Then the Senate subcommittees, you want it. Why? Because the Senate subcommittees gives them the opportunity to add things in there. We detailed the House subcommittee over the last few weeks. Remember, we started with in just this video talking about it. Well, the Senate subcommittees, led by Bernie Sanders and his budget chairmanship, yes, that's where they could add those provisions across the board as well. And that's why you need to advocate. Advocacy involves not asking what day, when, where, direct deposit, mail. No, we don't talk like that here. We advocate. It's an incredible recall that'll pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible clusters of checks. But that's just a start. We can make it better with some stimulus IRS checks. So here we go. Congressional Senators' offices receive more context of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the American Petition. We have 3 million. We're the biggest platform on the planet for advocacy of this recon. No one is coming close to LALATE and you, my friends. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of what the average American is going through to get through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories, and they have the voice of the people in you, LA, as you have become too loud to be ignored. Absolutely. Please, let's read the last sentence on air together. Please continue your encouragement for continued advocacy. As a professional voice of the people you have become until this becomes law, you need to advocate because guess what? MSC has always been a Senate play since day one. We only talked about House members later in the equation. It has always been a Senate play. The 2 C's, the 2 W's, and the 2 S's, you need to advocate because guess what? When it lands in the Senate, that is when all those gaps are filled. And that is when they can add those provisions in there. Coming up in the second half of this video, we got a lot coming up, my friends. We're going to go over the breaking news, as Nancy Pelosi says, that the vote will be happening on your recon this coming week. And she confirms that in view of the absence of a CBO. What's going on? The breaking details that a House of Done deal is solidified. And that vote will be called this coming week, says Nancy Pelosi, despite the absence of a Congressional Budget Office report. I have statements from her. I have statements from the CBO. I have statements from both of them. And the great, incredible programs will pay you about $15,000 across all these incredible programs. I'm excited for you. That's before they even add in a potential stimulus IRS check or multiple ones. It's huge. Get that pen and paper ready because you want this money. You got $45,000 under third stimulus. I'm going to show you how to get this big money under fourth stimulus, and you are ready to rock and roll. Student loan debt forgiveness, more debt could be given across the board, and then we got that fifth stimulus goal to raise. We got a huge, exciting broadcast. I'm excited you're here. We got so much great news as Nancy is on board for you. The vote is on board for you. Everything is on board for you, but the bacon's missing. But other than that, we're good. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. They're Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals. Reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues right now on a Big Afternoons LA broadcast as a House deal done. Nancy Pelosi confirms that the House is done and it will be voted on this coming week, even in the absence of a potential Congressional Budget Office report that was supposed to be done. The latest details. This is the statement you wanted. It's great news across the board. Programs in about $15,000 you're going to get across these incredible programs this covered in this channel and this recording. But the Senate could add more in there. Get that pen and paper ready because moolah is about to be coming in this recording. Then we turn to the exciting details of student loan debt forgiveness. The big student loan debt could be forgiven with an additional $10,000, and then we'll be turning to fifth stimulus. Very important in view of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index number released yesterday, the worst inflation in 30 years. I have those details and more as we go into a big, bold second half of this recording. And this, my friends, is LALATE, America's most talked about financial news channel in America. The only channel that does this in America. The number one channel doing stocks, the second one doing economy, and me doing this. You ain't gonna see the scope of recording anywhere across the globe. Coming up next is Evenings LA, a big show tonight at 5 o'clock, totally brand new. Then we got your shows at 6, 7 o'clock, 8, 9, 10, and 11:30, all about your recon. Subscribe, 400,000 subscribers and 140 million views in a year and a half. Like this video and consider becoming a member. Let's go over all the incredible details starting right now and what the president said and what Nancy said as well. Here you go. It was last Friday when Nancy Pelosi orchestrated an incredible deal with the moderate and the progressive Democrats for your incredible reconciliation budget bill. That deal had a series of phrases in it. Let's go over this deal that she reached. She had the moderate Democrats, led by Gothenheimer, raise their hand and say, we will vote in favor of the reconciliation budget bill upon receipt of the Congressional Budget Office report, but no later than the week of November 15th. Somewhere along the line, someone in Nancy Pelosi's office was a very good English major because they know that the last part of the sentence controls the beginning part of the sentence. The end of the sentence is the most critical, but no later than. That is the final phrase of the sentence, which means that everything before that will go no later than. It does not mean it does not mean the recon will be held up by the Congressional Budget Office report, but let's go over the details of that sentence one at a time. The deal was the following. The moderate Democrats were causing problem last Friday, and they said, we're not going to vote in favor of the recon. And the progressives saying we're not going to vote in favor of the roads and bridges. So Nancy Pelosi got an incredible deal to get the moderate Democrats to raise their hand and say, we will vote in favor of the recon with the Congressional Budget Office report, but no later would that vote happen than the week of November 15th. First, we will vote in favor of the recon. Me and the moderate Democrats will vote in favor of it. Number two, with the release of the Congressional Budget Office report. And number three, but no later than the week of November 15th. A common English major would tell you that the last part of the sentence trumps everything else. Meaning, if you don't have the Congressional Budget Office report, you still vote no later than the week of November 15th. I've been saying for 2 days on air that I wanted Nancy Pelosi to come out and make the same statement. I was saying, why? Because the Congressional Budget Office report is not going to be done by next week, potentially. CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is a nonpartisan organization, which has been the subject of this channel for now over a week since last Tuesday, says in a series of statements, we may not be done by the report by the week of November 15th. But Nancy says, no problema. If they're not ready, we are still calling the vote, and you must vote in favor of the recon. The Congressional Budget Office report today released 4 initial parts of the recon to go over its spending and whether it impact the economy and the deficit. The parts they released today are science, space, and technology, and Homeland Security, and also Small Business Administration. But if you look at the numbers that they ran, those parts of the recon are in the millions. They're not even billion-dollar allocations. So they were basically looking at a series of numbers of 4 million, 5 million, 4, 6 million, nothing in the billions. Over the past few months, we've provided technical assistance to committees as they develop their proposals for various parts of the bill. The analysis of the bill's many provisions is complicated, and the CPO will release a cost estimate for the entire bill as soon as practical. We estimate releasing some of the estimates of the individual titles of the bills as we complete them, some of which were released this week. Our estimates will take longer, particularly for provisions in which they interact with one another. We will determine a release date for the entire cost of the bill. When we determine that release date, we will provide advance notice. Bottom line, translation, the Congressional Budget Office report will not be done by the end of next week, the week of November 15th. So that caused a very, very good reporter you want to put on your Christmas card list for asking Nancy Pelosi the question. When in Scotland, at the UN COP26 climate conference, a very good reporter asked Nancy Pelosi in attendance at the conference, will you be voting on the recon the week of November 5th, no later than the week of November 15th, if you do not have the Congressional Budget Office report done? She said yes. We intend, that is our plan, to pass it the week of November 15th, as indicating our statements that we were made at the time of passing the roads and bridges. We're very proud of that. Again, the statement that was signed and voted into the record officially by Representative Gothenheimer, Kathleen Rice, Stephanie Murray, Kurt Schrader, and Ed Casey, the 5 people causing problems for your recon as moderate Democrats, was that we will vote in favor of the recon in its current form other than technical changes upon release of the Congressional Budget Office report, but in no later than the week of November 15th. There you go. So that is the incredible details across the board. Well, the incredible excitement across this channel is that this recon is going to pay you a lot of money. In February of this year, when I started featuring third stimulus, actually in January of this year, I had a pre-release of the provisions that were going to go into third stimulus. I said, this is huge. Under third stimulus, I can get you about $15,000. When it became law, I said, I can get you about $15,000. When it became law, viewers disapproved me and got an average of $45,000 from third stimulus. Now we're back with the same programs with more money for those programs. So while I say you can get on average about $15,000 across all these incredible programs, it repeats the same programs with third stimulus that the average viewer of this channel got about $45,000. And this is the House bill before we land in the Senate, in which the senators vow to close up some gaps. So get that pen and paper ready, because we're going to go over the incredible sums of money. We are pushing still for that MSC. We are still pushing for that stimulus IRS check, 1, 2, or more. But let's understand, this is huge, this amount of money. And you're going to get this money because you got it under third stimulus, you're going to get it under fourth stimulus, and we are going to learn about it starting right now. Paid leave got in there. What is paid leave? It's a lot of money. Paid leave is if your family has a newborn child coming to birth, or an illness or a death in the family. Household specifically, or you. Does not have to be COVID related. How much does it pay? It pays a fortune. It pays thousands of dollars to you per year. Under third stimulus, it was proposed at $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. $800 a week if you make $35,000 a year. $400 a week if you make $15,000 or more per year. Times that 4 weeks in this program per year. Wow, that is $5,000 to $6,000 on the high end, and then about $1,500 on the low end. It is deliciousness. The best part of it is the eligibility. Everyone, all workers, W-2, part-time, full-time at 1099, all income levels. An Uber Lyft driver whose wife is giving birth, who only makes $20,000 a year. This is you. The person who broke his leg picking at a basketball game on a Saturday with his buddies, out for 4 weeks, and makes $150,000 a year as a store manager. This is you. It is all incredible details across the board. The second add-on, which I predicted was going to go into that weekend and got into it, was SALT. SALT is lifting the cap on state and local tax deductions that appear on your IRS tax return. When you go to file your state tax return, you pay taxes. In the big states like New York and New Jersey, this is a lot of money. That amount that you pay is deductible on your IRS federal tax return. But under the 2017 Trump tax code, only up to a certain point. $10,000. Gothenheimer and the moderate Democrats wanted to raise it, and they got it in there. $72,500 you can now deduct on that federal tax return under this recon, exceeding that $10,000 limit under the 2017 tax overhaul. They got $40 billion of job training in this incredible recon. Great news, so you can learn how to make me some bacon. They got Medicare gap fixed. This is huge because that's in those states where they were not offering you cheaper prescription medication. I got a lot of great comments about this on Instagram. If you have questions that are advanced about any of these programs, send it to me and I'll feature them on air. Those 12 states that offered Obamacare, but the governors did not want to pay for it because they're Republicans, well, guess what? The workaround plan has now been solidified. It'll offer subsidized private insurance to low-income and uninsured people in those states. Immigration reform is in this recon, and understand it is no check for an immigrant and no check in the roads and bridges for an immigrant. That's a fake news story. Then, housing assistance. $150 billion of housing assistance is in this recon. It includes rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, weatherizing your home, home repairs, and the first purchase price of your first home. So many questions across the board. First, rent, utilities, mortgage assistance. Yes, it's coming back. Under third semester, you've been able to get 1, 2 rounds. Some viewers have gotten 3 rounds. If you haven't gotten a new round, you should. The great news is that the third semester had $47 billion for this. This has $150 billion. So imagine the amount of money you'll be able to get under this recon all the way till 2022's end. A new report released today says the rent is too darn high. I had to change the word. Rent is too darn high. Rent inflation is one of the big issues confronting the country right now, rent inflation, and that expected to continue into next year. So this program is going to definitely help you. Mortgage assistance as well. Then we have the home repairs if you live in a low-income community. A lot of those. We do not know the details of it, how many. We believe it is all front-end checks. Then you send me questions about the purchase price of your first home. First home purchase price. So first, we have to see how it's defined. One person was married and is now single. Then we have to see the definition of home. We believe it's single family does not mean if it's brick and mortar, but we have to see the definition. Great questions. Keep on bringing them in there. In-home healthcare, $150 billion for my seniors and also for my people on disabilities. $550 checks front end for my college students on the Pell Grant, currently on the Pell Grant. So if you're on the Pell Grant 2 years ago, no, nothing is retroactive in this recon. $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle from the U.S. auto manufacturer. That is Ford, GM, and Chrysler and all their subsidiaries. $12,500 for the purchase of that union shop electric car. The cheapest car I could find at the moment is the Chevy Volt, which is about $30,000. So that would be a big drop. That would be almost 50% of the price tag. Great news there. Then $65 per month checks for my students. It's believed that will go all the way up to through high school. That is every month that you're not in school. Let's go to the big Medicare reform. It's huge. It's incredible. Medicare reform will be absolutely blown out of the water with this incredible reform. What will it be? It will be seeing your biggest medications, arthritis, diabetes, cancer. You're going to get refill those prescriptions at $10 or $20 or $30 and instead of $900. Donnie's wife paying $900 for insulin per dose on Medicare. Kathy and Mary paying $500, $600, $700. Now it'll be $35. This is the biggest win. Is an incredible recon from the President of the United States. I want to shake his hand on this one because this is what he did best. He negotiated with Kristen Sinema 2 Wednesdays ago and ended 20 years of tyranny by Big Pharma. Under the charter agreement of Medicare, they could not negotiate for the prices of the medication, so they had to pay what was demanded. And their hands were tied behind their backs, said Ron Wyden. No longer the case. Medicare Part B and Part D will roll out 20-minute medications with preferred pricing, good faith negotiation. Right after this becomes law, overnight, you're going to see this benefit in your wallet. Then over the next years thereafter, it'll grow to about 30 medications. They cannot increase more than the rate of inflation. The incredible statements are still coming in from those legislators like Sanders, Sinema, Peters said, this is really good for senators. Seniors, sorry. That's a Freudian slip. Jan Skakowski. Yeah, seniors are old. Senators are older also. Skakowski said, this is great that we got it done. 2 provisions may likely be removed from the recon this week, and they are the Senate parliamentarians' battleground. Those provisions are immigration reform and paid leave. Immigration reform was already previously ruled by the Senate parliamentarian cannot belong in the recon. And then paid leave remains a battleground, 50-50. Who is the Senate parliamentarian? She's a political official. She's not partisan. And she determines under the rules of the Senate what provisions can go by recon and which can not go at all. What's important to understand is that, as you see in this graphic, programs at about $15,000, but before that's the Senate gets to their hands on it, the Senate is going to make huge changes. So remember, vote on the House next week, off to the Senate. You don't want to, nor should expect a 24-hour turnaround on the Senate, because the senators want to add a lot of checks in there. So when we look at that number, $15,000, it's likely going higher, not going smaller. This is the best bill since the 1960s, Bernie Sanders, but we have major gaps in there. Will you be adding stuff? Of course I'm going to be adding stuff, like dental and vision. Ron Wyden, Senator, Oregon, says, you know what? There's a amount of work to be done. Chris Coons, Senator, then also Debbie Stabenow, Chuck Schumer, and also Chris Murphy all say, they got a lot of work to do. So what work will they be doing? I'm going to go over those details with you in a second. But get that pen and paper ready, because we're ready to go over some more programs in this incredible recon. We're just blazing through these programs. Here comes some more. Universal pre-kindergarten, front-end check, 1 year, 3 to 4 year olds. The CTC, 1 year eligibility. I'm showing $60,000 per household, but here they show $150,000. Front-end check, earned income tax credit, back-end check. Then for hearing services, hearing aids, front-end check, hearing care, which we just talked about, back-end check. And then the rehab, the weatherizing, the purchase price of a new home, the rent, the utilities, the mortgage assistance, all front-end, $150 billion of it. The Pell Grant, $550 for the college students, front-end, and the $65 per month for the child, for the food. Yes, there we go. Now, what would come as an add-on the Senate side? Bernie Sanders says it's definitely going to be dental and vision just to start. Absolutely. So what are the provisions that Bernie's absolutely going to add? First, he's going to go back over that Medicare eligibility age. Currently at 65. He wants it at 55. Bob Casey wants it at 60. Then Bernie is going to go right at the dental and right at the vision. Those are two provisions that last were in the recon as a front-end check and were removed. The dental was last in there as $850 hard cold cash in your hand in the mail. What is that for? Dental. Bernie wants it 10 years full benefit coverage. Then he was going down to 3 years, but now $850 checks removed. You'll want at least that check in there, but it should be more because $850 does not cover most procedures. The vision is the easiest one. The vision is eyeglasses and eye exam. $150, $200 a year, check in the mail for my seniors on Medicare. Pretty easy. No explanation why that hasn't gone in there across the board. The CTC, I showed at 60,000. Broadcast media, sometimes some saying 150. And then the surprise is that I show the housing aid at 175, not 150 right now. And the in-home healthcare, I showed a higher at 200 at the moment across the board. Well, there you go. I have my commentary. It's a big one today. And it all goes all over also the analysis of the CPI from yesterday. It's coming up in just a second. We'll be coming right back to this recon. But let's turn for just a detour over to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven. $10,000. The president has proposed that by executive order. This should be accepted by the Democrats. They should take this during the holidays and run with it and then accept some more next year. The president has done people became disabled after graduation, nonprofit sector, and public servants 10 years after graduation. Democrats should take the $10,000. COLA raise. Your benefits are going up 5.9% next year based upon the inflation rate. And this is good. But get ready for fifth stimulus right behind that. If there was ever a reason to pass fifth stimulus, it would be this week. Why? The notion behind fifth stimulus is that people on benefits, seniors, SSI, SSDI, VA, SSA, all those type of benefits, RB, your numbers have been behind the ball for many, many years. Great, you're getting 5.9% this coming next year. That's for the current landscape. What about how behind you were for previous years? So that's the purpose of this stimulus, raising your benefits up one time, then apply a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation next year, which I've been telling you for a while would be about 3%. That means you'll get 1, 2, 3 lift-offs across the board. They're going to move the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? Become a member today and get that newsletter, the only newsletter of its kind in the nation, from the only news channel of this kind in the nation. It comes out 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, sent by the LALATE alert system, the only alert system of its kind in the nation. You want to sign up for that alert system. It's in the links to this video. It's totally free. And become a member. becoming a paid member under this newsletter, under this video, gets you that newsletter Monday through Friday and gives you the knowledge to get that big money under third stimulus and tees you up for fourth stimulus as soon as it becomes law. Let's go into the analysis now as we go into the final minutes of what happened yesterday with that CPI number. The Consumer Price Index number released on yesterday caused just a ripple of confusion across the board. What's at issue? What does it mean? What does it represent? Let me explain what happened with that number. There's a lot of different economic numbers we focus on this channel over the last year. But one that we have focused on a lot since July of this year has been the inflation rate. Back in the summer, I said that inflation this fall would be 5%. Jeremy Siegel said 20%. The Federal Reserve said 2%. I said there's no way it's going to be 2%. Now, inflation has several different benchmarks, and inflation has several different ebbs and tides. It was initially start to be temporary or transitory. By late summer, I said it's not going to be temporary anymore. It's going to be prolonged for a while before it comes down. What's causing the inflation? The inflation is being caused by supply chain lockup. What is supply chain lockup? When we were on lockdown across the globe, products did not ship. Consumer goods did not ship. Chinese and Japanese and South Asian production plants did not produce. When the lockdown was lifted and they started to produce, the demand was very strong because people had not been buying products for a while. They hadn't needed to buy certain products. Now when the lockdowns were over, they started to buy the products. The products were not available. That caused what's called a supply chain bottleneck or supply chain problem. At issue, a series of numbers started to erupt. Those numbers started with labor. You started to see people getting paid more per hourly rate across the nation and across the globe. Good. But we also saw consumer products go up. And what are those consumer products? They are food at the grocery store. They're cars. They are oil. They are meat and poultry. And what happened? Truckers were not available. Shippers were not available. And this continued to erode. The president has not addressed the subject matter. At the same time, you have two different groups that govern support of this economy. The president and the Congress, and on the other side, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has been supporting this economy since the start of the pandemic by buying mortgage-backed securities. That support from the Federal Reserve is still happening, and they have not yet really tapered. People have been calling for them to taper for a while, and that excess support has caused too much support for these issues. So what happened? When you look at inflation, you can look at inflation by going to the grocery store. And that is the best indication of inflation, or going to the pump and filling up the car. Economists always say you see the inflation firsthand before the numbers appear in the economy. And you saw it over the last 60 days. You saw how much it's zoomed up in the last 60 days. Well, when the Consumer Price Index number, CPI, was released yesterday, it was no surprise to the viewers of this channel. 6.2%. The highest number in 30 years. That is a yearly number. It increased price of goods 6.2% compared to the year before. That is an inflation number. This is higher than my 5% number of the summer, but it is not much different. It is not the 20% that Jeremy Siegel says, and it shows that the Federal Reserve looking at 2 or 3% this fall was out of touch. Here are the numbers. Fuel went up 59% since last year. Energy went up 30%. Used cars went up 26%. New cars went up 10%. Food went up 5%, but watch this number. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs went up 12% since last year. That's huge. That's really huge. Why is that? Because they need to ship it. And then to ship it, they need fuel. To fuel is 59%. And then they need the truck to ship it. And they got to get more trucks. And that's 20%, 26%. So it compounds itself. Yesterday, the President of the United States addressed the American people in going across the country to tout the roads and bridges. Also, the the House, not the House Budget Committee, the Richard Neal's, the House Budget Committee, on the House Ways and Means Committee. I'm so sorry, House Ways and Means Committee. That was the one I was searching for. Issued a tweet yesterday talking about the roads and bridges. Here's what's at issue: the President of the United States did what he was supposed to do yesterday. Address the problem. We have a supply chain issue and we have an inflation problem. And I feel your pain and I sympathize for you. Good. First point taken, that he's on touch with the situation and he empathizes for the situation you're in. That's the number one thing you want a president to do. The third thing, what is he doing? Not a lot. He's not focused on it. And he says, right now, that's my top priority. It is not your top priority. This should have been your top priority 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And this is where I get a little bit agitated. He said this is why the roads and bridges infrastructure is so important, because it'll solve problems like this. And what did the House Ways and Means Committee say? They said the infrastructure is a great body of legislation because it'll create a lot of jobs. Okay. First of all, that's not the economic situation at hand. We do not have a problem creating jobs in this economy. There is no shortage of jobs in the economy, and job creation is not the problem. The problem is supply in the economy, and now getting to potential runaway inflation. That's the problem. It's not solved by the roads and bridges legislation, which doesn't roll out or impact this economy for at least over a year, and its impact is felt slowly over 10 years. Even Janet Yellen says that. The roads and bridges legislation doesn't create any jobs by the end of 2021. So I don't know why people need to keep on saying the roads and bridges does something it doesn't do. I got it. The president wants to show wins. I'm fine with the president showing wins. Here's my win. I want to grandstand with my win. Good. You got to win. But don't say that win solves inflation. It doesn't solve inflation. It has nothing to do with inflation. Inflation's core issue is that consumer products are high. How do you get milk and eggs cheaper? The way you get milk and eggs cheaper is you flood the market with more products. Well, the products are coming from overseas. Are the products being ramped up overseas? They are being ramped up overseas, many of these products. So that is good news. When do we start to feel the benefit of that oversupply kicking in? Maybe middle of next year. Oh, that's a while from now. So what do we do in the short term? Well, we have big problems going in these winter months, which is fuel and heating oil. The federal government does have an excess supply of oil that they can release into, that are in reserves, that they can release in to bring down these prices of goods. You go to the gas tank, that would drop down the price of gasoline, currently $5 to $6 a gallon in Los Angeles. These are the sort of things the president should be doing right now. And so while I understand you have a win on roads and bridges, while I understand you are good on empathy and saying I'm on the subject, I'm addressing the subject matter, there is absolutely no clear policy with this White House about the situation. How does this impact recon? How does it impact fourth stimulus recon? How does it impact fifth stimulus recon? Fifth stimulus recon, it really impacts it right on point, because fifth stimulus is all about seniors and people on benefits left behind because you're not being paid enough as the economy is going up. You're going to hear a lot of words circling around in the next few days. Stagflation, inflation, stagflation, inflation. What is it looking at? It's looking at how much you're getting paid versus how much it costs to buy something. So you getting paid maybe the Social Security check you get in the mail, or if you're an employee, you got a $1 raise compared to last year. But now when you go to pay for goods, the goods have escalated faster than your raises. A simpler way to say it is that the price increases in consumer goods has gone up faster than your benefits checks or your employment checks. And so that issue is really sort of an issue that needs to be addressed by this White House right away. Labor shortage is another issue that will fix itself quickly. There are people who are not returning back to the workforce that are available to work but are not working. A lot of these people are people who were on unemployment benefits, and those unemployment benefits are just starting to wear off. Those people will come back into the labor force, and the more workers you have in the workforce, the more productivity you have, and the faster you can fix these supply chain issues. That is going to happen in the next 60, 90 days. Good for that. But when you look at this recon, when you look at fifth stimulus recon, what's important to understand is that fifth stimulus recon is exactly what this is about. That people on benefits have not had their checks brought up to a normal level for a while. And now we have all these other items kicking in. When you look at fourth stimulus recon, you can look at a lot of different ways. But my opinion at the moment is that fourth stimulus recon is not relevant to the inflationary situation. Fourth stimulus recon is not really relevant to the inflationary situation, which is, if inflation is there, then do people need this money more or do people need this money less? Not exactly on point for a lot of these items. Why? Because if you look back at 2020, Mitch McConnell would have said, if the economy is too strong, then you don't need stimulus. So that is why you sort of want to stay away from saying that inflation is this, hence we need the stimulus. There are certain places in which it's absolutely on point, which is the rent. Rent is going up. You can't afford higher rent. You're going to get evicted. You need rent aid. There you see it's apples and apples. It's very, very clear. But if you're looking at something like home repairs, there's nothing that is impacted with that for inflation. It takes 2 or 3 steps of analysis. I can't afford the home repairs because the goods are more, hence I need the money. It takes 2 more steps. The rent inflation is its own beast, and that rent inflation needs to be solved across the board. I'll have more about this tonight on Evenings LA. As you see, the situation is very fluid across the board. We'll be seeing the president's current comments all throughout this week about inflation and how he tailors them to the social spending program next week. As social spending heats up next week and the recon without, you want to see the president talk about the situation. But with that, join me next on Evenings LA coming up at 5 o'clock. I don't want you to miss that video across the board. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Join me next on the Evenings LA at 5 p.m. Stay informed, stay focused, keep on smiling, and stay with LA for more.